Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Security and Awards Volunteer Zoom. We'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. I would ask if you would, there'll be definitely some time for interaction and some questions after David has kind of gone over the premise and some of the things that he's looking for as part of that service. So if you would go ahead and self-mute when you come in, and then we'll kind of take ourselves off mute once he's done with the presentation. So we'll be getting back with you in just a few minutes.
Probably want to mute. Is there a mute over there? No.
This is Milt. I'm going to have to get off after a couple minutes or be watching another show because I have a conflict, but I want to at least hear the beginning if I could.
Oh, no worries. And I am going to record it. It will be recorded and posted up on the YouTube channel, and I will pass out a notification when that recording is up. So
Please,
glad
thank
you
you
could be
very
on
much.
for a few minutes, and we'll see
Yeah.
you another time.
Well, hopefully not too far into the future.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Again, if you're just hopping on, thanks for joining us. We'll be starting probably just a couple minutes after 8. We'll let people filter in. But as you jump on, if you could self-mute yourself, we'll have a lot of time for questions and answers after David kind of gives us the lowdown on the awards and security portion of the volunteer section. And then we'll definitely have a little promo on some of the other sections that are available for volunteer service as well. So we'll be back in just a minute. All right, 8 o'clock. I see David is on. David, real quick, do you have a video, any presentation or anything you need to screen share, or will you just be chatting it up?
I have a couple of slides, but it's just 5 or 6 slides.
Okay, then go ahead and ask me for that permission to share screen, and I will grant that.
Here's somebody who obviously knows Zoom. I'm glad you're in charge here.
Oh, wow. So you'll be able to.
I certainly don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would not give credit where credit is not quite due, but we'll get our way through it. How's that? I'm enough to
right.
make me dangerous. So I appreciate you sharing this with everybody tonight. And I guess we can probably go ahead and it's about a couple minutes after, so we can go ahead and start with the introductions, and then you can share a little bit and let everybody know what we're doing tonight. So tonight, I appreciate those that have hopped on. You obviously have an interest in the security or the awards portion of volunteering at the show. And David is in charge of both of those. So he's going to give us a little bit of a lowdown on some concepts and things that he's looking for and things to do once we get there. So we'll kind of go through that. We can do a little Q&A with him on those specific tasks. And then I will spend a minute or two giving a quick promotion on some of the other areas of interest and need for the show, and a quick recap on making sure people are aware of how to self schedule themselves. We do have another session that we're going to do on the 30th. I think in the message I had the 29th on the message and then the 30th on the Zoom notice. My apologies for that. When the announcement goes out, it'll be correct on the 30th. But we'll do kind of a generic one of these on the 30th as well, talking about other positions and other slots that are available, and any other of the coordinators that want to share at that time are more than welcome, and they'll get a message as well. But for tonight, the star of the show is awards and security. So without any further ado, David Ball, let us know what we're doing.
Jerry, I appreciate it very much. Thank you all for coming. Many hands make for light work, right? I mean, we're all going because we're collectors and we want to go to the stamp show, but we also recognize that having a successful show means everybody kind of pitching in. And I wanted to just share with you a couple of slides. Let me, now that I have permission.
Permission.
I've got two monitors, so you got to tell me if I'm doing this right.
All right, you are doing it right enough because we're seeing some security type things.
Okay. All right. Does that look full screen?
Now she's full screen. Now you're good to go.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So my task at the stamp show is to be responsible for awards and for security. And it turns out that there are lots of moving pieces, and I could really use some help. And so I wanted to share with you what we're doing with awards and security. And if you find that you have the time and you're willing to help us out, I'd be grateful, and I know the show would be a better show. So I started coming up with ideas of what kinds of stuff really needs to be done. Well, with awards, we've got we need to track the show medals are being printed, are being minted right now, and there are presentation boxes that are coming with that, and then there are show ribbons, and we need to figure out where those are in the process. Have they come from the manufacturer? Have they been received by the Spelman Museum, which is collecting this stuff? And Celine Poulin said that she would track that stuff down and be responsible for that. There are other things that need to happen, like we're going to have 1,200 medals, and they all need to get either into Mylar bags or they need to be put in the presentation boxes. We need to create a spreadsheet of the awards because there are lots of awards coming in from all over the world, and we need to know which ones have we received. Are they missing the information necessary for the jury to decide who to award them to? Is the award currently sitting at the convention center? Is it in the display case? Is it back at the museum? So we need to do that. We need to move the awards from the museum downtown to the seaport. We're going to have display cases. We need to take all of these awards and arrange them, make them look pretty, so that people, when they come in, they see all of the things that are going to be happening at the show. Then we need to segregate. There are going to be 850 people who are exhibiting, and we can't hand out their medals to all of them during the same presentation. So it's been broken up into two groups. Those that receive a gold medal or less will be receiving them in the afternoon on Friday, and then at the awards banquet that evening, people who are large golds or people who win a grand or something like that will be receiving it then. So we need to be able to segregate those awards that are going to gold and below and gold and above. We've created a really special certificate. Initially, when I heard that we needed a certificate, I'm like, so you go to Kinko's and you get something that's got a little gold border in it, and that just seems so boring. But what we've done is we've had a die made, and it's been done by letterpress, so it's intaglio printed the same way stamps are. And so the frame of this certificate has been done, and now what we need to do is we need to send those certificates to the president of the jury and to the chairman of the stamp show, get their autographs, and I'll take care of that. The other thing that needs to happen is once the jury has decided what the medal levels are going to be, we need to print the names and the names of the exhibits and also the medal levels on the certificates. And that's going to be a mail merge kind of thing. And Alan said he'd work that magic for us. Ordering certificates. Oh, ordering certificates. So what that means is, okay, so we've printed all 850 of these things. Well, we need to separate them into the ones that are going to be handed out at 1 o'clock and the ones that are going to be handed out at like 8 o'clock. And then after that, do we order them by probably by medal level, but maybe it's alphabetical. I'm not sure. But we need to separate those that are going to the afternoon event and the ones that are going to the evening event. Then we need to organize the awards for presentation, lay them out on the tables and things like that. And we may also need to help to present the awards. So sometimes that's done by the jury chair, and they get some assistance and things like that. But with something this big, I have a feeling, the awards people are going to have to help with
Algo
that.
tan grande. Tengo un presentimiento.
So you can see just in the awards section, there are so many things that need to be done. Now, some of them you kind of need to live in Massachusetts to be able to do. And there are others that, we're going to be trucking all this stuff down to the stamp show, and then we're going to have like piles of stuff, and it needs to be organized and inventoried and put in the right place, and and that kind of stuff, and help present it and give it out. And so we're going to need that help. So if you have an interest in awards, you can see I've got a lot of blank spaces, and that would be really helpful. On the security side, we're contracting with the convention center to provide public safety. So there will be people who are on the doors, and they're trained, uniformed people. We've got somebody from EMS to handle if there are any medical emergencies. We've got a contingent from the Boston Police Department. So, I mean, we have, that part of it covered. That said, there's still a lot of complexity here. And here's the principal part. You want to be able to safeguard all the stamps that are on the stamp show. So you want to lock down the exhibition area. And ideally, you'd like to just have it open when the public's there. Okay, so the public's going to be there from 10 in the morning to 6 at night or something like that. So you tell the security guards, okay, unlock the doors at 10 in the morning, lock them up at 6. It's a pretty easy thing to do. Well, it turns out that there are a bunch of people that need to get in there at hours other than the times that it's open to the public. So, for example, you might have volunteers, exhibit volunteers, who are helping to put up exhibits in the frames. Or you might have commissioners coming and putting up exhibits. Or you might have a jury that needs to be there before people come in or need to stay late. So there are a number of different instances where people are going to need to be there at after hours. And the way in which the people on the doors know whether to let somebody in is a temporary access badge. So we're gonna create these access badges and put them on lanyards and hand them out to people that need them. So, for example, the dealers, okay, dealers are going to need to be in, let's say, 2 hours before the public comes in, and they may need to be there, let's say, 2 hours after. And so on the back of their badge, it's going to say, okay, dealers can come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they need to be out by 8 p.m. All right. People in societies might have the same kinds of requirements. So, or people from postal administrations. So we've got a whole bunch of people that are going to have some kind of access. And instead of them calling me up and saying, hey, David, here's somebody who wants to get on the floor and it's not open to the general public yet, they're going to have this access badge. Well, it turns out we need about 1,200 badges. It's crushing how many of these we need. But that's what we have to do. So we're creating these access badges and putting them on lanyards. And I've got somebody who's working that issue. We're currently doing that. We also need to get access keys for meeting rooms because the meeting rooms are going to be locked. But let's say that there's some change and a society needs to move from one room to another. But we need to get that room unlocked. So we're going to have to need to do that. And I'm going to create a board that shows the security people what the different kinds of badges are and, if they have an issue, how to call us and, that sort of thing. But there are some other kinds of security things that we're going to need to do. One is, and it doesn't sound like it's really security related, but it's all kind of put together. One is there's a whole bunch of stuff at the Spelman. They've got 6 million stamps that they need to move. And then they've got all of the awards that have been sent there. And then they've got all of the books from the literature competition, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff that needs to move from the museum and move for about an hour into downtown Boston. So one of the things that I want our security department to be able to do is to create a schedule and find volunteers who'd be willing to drive to the museum, pick up stuff, and bring it to the stamp show. And I spoke to the museum director, and he said that anybody who's willing to do that, he will he'll give them a tour of the museum. If you haven't been to the museum, it is a wonderful place. You know, there are only two museums in the United States that are dedicated to stamps and postal history. One's the National Postal Museum, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and the other one is this one in Weston. And it is a tremendous place. So anybody who helps out by driving some stuff from the museum into downtown will get a guided tour from the museum staff. We also need to create a spreadsheet for the deliveries. There are also going to be security needs each day. And I'm not so much talking about, you know, walking around and doing the like investigating, you know, potential crimes or anything like that, but having one or two people on each day that are handling security related kinds of issues is helpful. So so I want to build a cadre of people that are available to help out with things, you know, like this door needs to be opened, or somebody needs to come over and talk to them about changing this procedure or something like that. So there are a number of security things. And if you're kind of a security person, you know, we have some people who are former military or people who are, you know, law enforcement, things like that, who are comfortable with these kinds of issues. You know, I would welcome that. So those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking. And, you know, I was looking last week and a whole bunch of people had said, you know what, I might have an interest in something like that. Some of them were awards people, some were security people. Some said, yeah, I could help with transportation or maybe handing out awards. So that's all a good thing. And I was hoping that Lucas would be on the call, but I don't see him yet.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, would you take over here?
Sure. So we've gone through quite a bit of work in designing these badges and making sure that everything is laid out properly and collecting estimates and making sure things go smoothly. So these are some of the slides we've put together. David, if you could go to the next slide. So this is somewhat of a layout of all of the different types of badges that we'll have for this show. There's 9 total badges. The one in the center is operations. And as David had described somewhat earlier, these coordinate to different things and ensuring that people can have access to the areas that are necessary for them. We have, of course, dealer. You'll notice that's the D on the left. Early access, Minuteman Club is self-explanatory. It has the Minuteman and assorted other badges. These were made and they'll go through WordPress, which Alan has been kind enough to volunteer to help us with. Could we go to the next slide, please? So initially we were looking at maybe getting a badge maker. If you're familiar with those, they can print out a number of badges on like a PVC-like material. But we started thinking about costs and we said, well, we're going to have a lot of last-minute situations come up, and it turned out that those badge makers were just a great deal of money, and they get used once every 10 years, so we didn't want to thrust that investment upon the expo. So we went to this, where we would be having the badges cut from a very heavy cardstock, and we would be able to address maybe last-minute needs and requests for them. And then they'll be placed in these plastic holders and sealed appropriately, and they're nice and heavy, and they really look quite nice in the end. So these are actually quite affordable, and you'll see right here on the left we have our lanyards that we have an estimate for. They have the custom Boston exposition logo on them. So this will kind of be what it looks like. Anyhow, so this is the summary of the costs. We have our commercial printing costs at $600, the plastic holders at $370, and then I believe we actually just had the custom ribbon costs provided. If I could find that, just one moment here. And that comes out to, for the ribbons and all, so the ribbons would be $840. So our total cost estimate to have these 1,200 badges and everything done properly would be $1,720. That was
Okay.
right now our most affordable option. That's all I have.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, I think that, Jerry, that's all I have for slides. So I'm going to stop sharing. And let me turn it back over to you. Hey, Scott, good to see you.
Excellent stuff, David. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think that was a pretty good summation of what we're rolling through. I guess, but before we open it up for questions, which we'll do here in just a second, the one thing that I hope most everybody on this call has been onto the Volgistics website. They've got their VicNet app set up and they're familiar with the self-scheduling. So if you do pop in there, a lot of the things that David has now talked about, there's some slots in there for it. So if you go into awards transportation, at the moment, it has that slot as an all-day thing. So it literally says like 8 a.m. to 6, to 6 p.m. So now you kind of understand it's not an all day thing. We're just trying to, okay, if you've got that day available, you've got some time available. And as we get closer to the very specific coordination of times and hey, we're moving this time and etc. But if you go ahead and slot yourself in that transportation, it doesn't lock you into the entire day. It just gets you in the loop of, okay, you're willing to do transportation on that day back and forth to the Spelman. And now we'll get kind of next tier coordination as to very specific times. So some of the things that Dave talked about when you go in to that Volgistics or the VicNet, the self-scheduling area, if you have questions about that, we'll talk about that at the end, but you can get in there and you can get yourself in kind of the generic conversation of, yep, hey, my hand's in the air, transport, I'm good, or hey, that day I can help pack up awards into their bags. And now you can be kind of volunteered into the next layer, if you will, and we'll get kind of very specific with it, coordinating, communicating back with David or whoever else he has in charge of those particular things. I think you said Alan's doing the printing, and so he may need some help doing some things, moving those awards back and forth. If somebody's got an eye for awards setup, I think there's one in there. I'd have to look again, but I think there's one for awards setup as well. But that's what you can do in their slotting. It gets you into that next tier conversation. And then secondly, if obviously you're on this Zoom and this call and you've seen something that, hey, I specifically want to raise my hand for that little sheet. I'm going to have David, if you would send me that little printout of the breakdown of the topics and needs that you had. And in
Sure.
the follow-up email, when I announce that this is up on the YouTube, I can say, hey, here's some slots that if you really want to communicate on these or volunteer for that specific spot, please do. So I appreciate everybody being here, and now we will open it up to questions and anything particular that you have in your mind for David in either of those categories. And go ahead and unmute yourself as you converse.
And Jerry, let me just say, thank you for mentioning about, for example, for transportation. So, I mean, it might say that it's an all-day thing, but really all we need is, let's say you're staying at the stamp show. We just need you to drive out to the Spelman, pick up a load of stuff and come back. And it's maybe an hour each way. So we're talking about a commitment of, a morning or to go out there at lunchtime or something like that. So it doesn't take up your whole day.
Right. And a chunk of that will be done prior to show opening, correct?
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of
We-
that is pre-show that we wanted up and set up and ready to go. So those folks that would be there prior to show opening, that's a great help as well.
Yeah.
All right. Questions.
Yamo.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Lucas, for all your work. This sounds very well thought of. In addition to the pre-register badges, we're going to have to offer to all the walk-ins a way to identify themselves, a cheaper way to do that, because I assume a lay person, non-philatelist, we're really marketing heavily to that population, would walk in and they have to fill out some information and put it on a badge so that they're allowed into the show floor. So we need two tiers of identification, one for everybody pre-register who has some capacity, dealer, volunteer, exhibitor, commissioner, judge, organizer, etc., and then for the walk-in person who may or may not have pre-registered.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm about to blow your socks off, Emil.
Mhm.
All volunteers are receiving a ball cap. It
Mhm.
says volunteer on top of it, and we're utilizing that as part of the badge system. So anybody that comes in and has a volunteer hat will have a little bit of early and late access to do their job. And if they need something above tier, if they need one of these extra special ones, we can arrange then after they've already got their volunteer cap to get in and out, we'll get an extra badge for them that we can reuse. So they'll be able to have the walk-ins will have that hat once they get there, and they can register with me in the volunteer lounge to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, and that's great. But I wasn't talking about the volunteer group. I know this is a volunteer meeting. I'm talking about the public in general who walks in on a Wednesday afternoon, and they will need some badges too. So we need to think of that as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's still a piece that hasn't been worked out yet. So yeah, I can understand. Yeah, I didn't mention. So we had 9 categories. We actually have 10 because we're allowing people who have the baseball cap to come in a half hour early and leave a half hour late, so that volunteers could do that. But yeah, Yamil's got an even bigger issue that we still need help with, and that's how do you identify other people besides the early access people.
David, this is Megan Orient at the
Hi, Megan.
2016 show. Hi. At the 2016 show, we created an online form where people could pre-register online and they could print their own generic name badge and bring it in. They just had to fill out the basic demographic information, which was good data to have for the show and the show participants if they wanted access to the demographics or if they were willing to share that. And then we had some blank ones printed to be used at the show with, however many hundred of extra or thousands of extra name badge holders to put those in. But we tried to encourage as many people as we could to register in advance and to bring that badge with them, just pre-printed, and we provided the holders at the show. So it just expedited registration so people didn't get frustrated waiting in line. And then we still were able to capture some of the visitors' information.
Yeah. Now, Megan, yeah, I understand what you're saying about pre-registering. Makes a lot of sense. People that show up on the spot, can they do data entry there too, or they're not really captured?
We did not have a budget for any computers. Now they could do it from their phone as they walked in the door. They could log on to their phone if there's good cellular signal inside. And then once they were registered, I think they could show us that confirmation, and then we were able to give them a blank badge for them to write their names on. We weren't printing badges because we didn't really have computer equipment at the front desk other than maybe 1 or 2 computers just for staff reference. But it was pretty much a paper slip, like a half sheet of paper with, 10 questions or something. And then once they filled that in and turned it over, then we gave them a blank name badge with a Sharpie.
Yeah. I mean, you do want to be able to capture some information and even if you're handwriting it and someone's, keying it in later, that still has value.
Hey, David.
So what I do at large shows at professional organizations for walk-ons is you should have printed out a sheet with a QR code. And then what people do is they use their phone for the QR code, and they can actually register right there. So the QR code would send them to the site where they would register in person, and then you would hand them what would be a blank badge, but then if you have to, either write in their name or some other method. But that's how we've done it. It's been very successful because that way you get them into the database.
Right.
You're not just writing their name. And then you can also give them a badge, which then gets them into the show. So it's
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
I have a question. This is Jim Belzer.
Hey, Jim.
I signed up for some things, and then if we're like at the Minuteman Lounge, for example, will we have a list of these emergency services like medics, police, etc., so that we can make that call if something happens while we're volunteering somewhere else?
Yes, so that information is going to be on the back of the badge. There are two of us who are acting as security managers. Scott Vanderhoof, who's on the call, and I are the security guys. So our numbers will be there. Also, EMS and police, and also a number for somebody at the convention center. So yeah, if there's some issue, it would be on the back of your badge.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, Daniel.
Here. I just have a question.
Sure.
So, I'm sorry. So if we pre-register, we cannot, however, pick up our badges until we actually show up at the show, correct?
Are you talking about a badge of someone who walks in
No,
to see the show?
For example, I'm a volunteer for exhibits to help put up exhibits. So I'm going to have to show up early. I'm going to need early access. So I would need a few badges, and many of us will need a few badges. I will need early access, volunteer for exhibits, Minuteman Club, etc. So the multiple badges that we need, that's not a problem. And when do we actually acquire them?
Well, what we're trying to do is I'd like to be able to have the fewest number of badges as possible. And that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
And so what ideally what we'd like to do is give somebody the badge that gives them the greatest access for the need that they're going to have.
Okay.
So for example, if you're a exhibit volunteer and you're going to be putting up exhibits,
Right.
you would go to Jerry's volunteer lounge, where you sign in, and he will have badges that will allow you to be on the floor. I think it's 2 hours. I'm not sure what those hours are, but it's the same hours as commissioners. Commissioners are putting up frames. You'll be putting up frames, and having that EV badge will allow you to be on the floor to do that work.
But also the same badge could have multiple functions. You can print V for volunteer, E for exhibitor, M for Minuteman, all in the same badge, along with the person's name, so that you can use the badge for multiple
It
functions.
would be better to do that than having 3 or 4 badges.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, what that means is that we would have to cross-reference and find out every possible thing that person would be doing. How do we do that?
Well, we can provide that information in advance. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you create stickers for certain things that can be added to a badge that would add to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Minuteman Club could be a sticker, right? Or just add it to another badge.
Yeah. The reason we ended up with the Minuteman one, I was initially, I didn't want to do it, but we have a number of people who they might be exhibitors, they might be collectors who have no other volunteer association. They don't have any need to be on the floor, and yet they've been substantial contributors, very generous. And this lounge is a way of saying thank you to the people who are supporting the show financially. So we wanted to make sure that there was a way that that people could get to this lounge and be recognized as someone who is authorized to be there. So we needed to make up these badges.
Yeah, and
David,
that's
one
a
thing,
good idea because I was wondering how that was going to go, and it's better than having a list to look at. So the badge is a great idea.
David, one thing you mentioned about having volunteers pick them up in the volunteer lounge. If that lounge is on the show floor, I wouldn't recommend that. I know, again, what we did in the past is having one central registration area for all roles, except for maybe the dealers and societies who have to come in the loading dock to set up their booths, only because it causes more confusion if someone's looking for that volunteer badge and then they have to go somewhere else to get the Minuteman badge and somewhere else. It's one central check-in, and it should be outside the show floor or right at the main entrance at the point where security starts, just beyond that registration desk.
Okay, well, you're the person who has this experience, so that sounds great to me. So my understanding, what I hear you saying is that the badges would come from two places. If you're someone who is expected to require the loading dock, that's where you get your badge, and otherwise you'd get it at registration.
Correct. And whoever picks up the badges first at the loading dock, let's say you have 3 people working a dealer booth, whoever the person is that picks up those badges then has to make sure that they're in contact with their other workers who might be coming in that front entrance as opposed to the back entrance, because we don't have the ability to, have them in 2 different places unless they really tell us, like their helper isn't coming till day 3 or something. But in general, the dealer who checks in is responsible for all of their badges for their booth, and they have to distribute them. So if their person's come into the front door, they have to walk from their booth all the way to the front door, give them their badge so they can get in.
Okay. Well, like I said, I mean, you've obviously done this, and I have a lot of respect for that. Who else?
Yeah, once again, so those of us putting up exhibits, they have to do that before the show opens.
Right.
We need to have a place to go to where we can get the appropriate badges.
Yeah.
And maybe get them all at the same time if there's Minuteman plus others.
Yes, Don, before you enter to the show floor, you'll have to go through registration, and you'll get a package with all the information that you need: show catalog, your badge, Palmares tickets if appropriate, etc.
So that show operations area registration is going to be open the Thursday before the show?
Well, there's going to have to be somebody who can give you a badge, and we will ensure that that people that show up to, for example, put up exhibits, will be able to get their badge.
Yeah, the registration should be open Tuesday or Wednesday before the show.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
So another question. I found this very helpful. Is there going to be a separate session for those who are putting up exhibits? Is that planned or is that necessary, do you think?
A separate session for what?
To discuss those volunteers putting up exhibits. Are there
No.
any no.
No,
So this
no. The purpose of this is just to say that the function that we have, the security function, part of that is going to be ensuring that people that need to be there in hours other than the public hours are able to get on the floor. And part of that is this badging process.
All right, thank you.
And the exhibit setup, I don't disagree, Dan, that's a great idea. But that's really up to the bin people and the commissioners for the exhibit set, the guys running that.
Okay.
And I know there's been some conversation back and forth finalizing how they want to do that,
Okay.
and how they're going to communicate that to the volunteers.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So that's kind of up to them. I would be happy to be a part of that if I'm available. But that would be up to those guys.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
good.
Jer, we talked about this once before, and I did it at Washington. Yeah, this is Pat Walters, and I set it up ahead of time at Washington, and we also did it at New York. What we had to do was we coordinated that actually back with the bin room, because the bin room knows where things go,
right?
And they know where different exhibits are. So that was a very good place to have it.
And I think
if you're coming in ahead of time or putting up exhibits.
right. And I think the gist, and I was kind of keeping quiet about it there, but getting those badges in, if the volunteer lounge is inside already, so is the bin room. So
Yes.
you guys are right. We need to figure out a way that the access stuff, at least until we get moving, is available to the people that need to get in prior to that bin room and volunteer lounge being open. So
Yeah, well, Megan will get us, we'll
that
keep
out,
us
yes.
on the straight and narrow, because
We'll
she
shake that
did
out.
it, she did it last time. So she'll tell us where they need to be.
But Patrick and Dan, I don't disagree. I think both of those, that would be a great thing. And it is the bin room guys that are kind of yapping back and forth. That would be a good idea to have them give a little session on how they want it to roll before we all show up.
That would be good.
Yeah,
David, one of the
especially since we're ahead of the show before it even opens. So we got to have a place and something identified where at least those people can get the proper credentials so they can get on the floor.
Right.
Tom, you have to unmute.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, David, the question that came to my mind was definitely on security, and especially for setup and potentially takedown as well too, in that people will go to the registration desk at the front of the building and literally have to walk to the very back of the building to get to the bin rooms and to all of that. How will security work for those people who have to migrate from the front of the building to the very back of the building to get to where they have to be?
Well, there won't be an issue of security at that time. I mean, you're going to be there with a handful of people from Heritage mounting and dismounting things from the post office. So I don't think you're at any particular risk walking from one end to the other, frankly.
Like, again, I'm thinking more of the volunteers for setting up, people that have to get back there while all these other transitions are happening. Is that going to be an issue?
would they not also be getting badges at the front before they walk to the back?
Yes.
Yes. Shouldn't be an
And then,
issue.
yeah, security will have a list of what badges are allowed on the floor at what times. And those hours will also be printed on the back of the volunteer's badge or whatever role they have. So the two should match up. And then if there's an error where someone has the wrong badge or something, then that can be worked out.
Yeah, nobody will be allowed on the show floor without an ID badge. There will also be a separate entrance on the loading dock with another registration desk for dealers.
Right.
And, postal administrations, commissioners carrying exhibits will enter through the loading dock area.
Right.
So the badges can be picked up as early as when? Tuesday, Wednesday before the show?
Mhm.
We'll let you know.
Okay.
Yamil, when is the earliest that someone would be putting up an exhibit?
Well, Mark and I plan to be there on Monday morning at 6. But the answer is probably optimistically late on Tuesday, most likely on Wednesday. But
Wednesday.
they have to lay out the carpets. We have to build a bin room, first of all, and the volunteer room towards the back of Exhibit Hall B. The back would be the south side. So we have a timeline of construction that we're negotiating with Heritage, the decorator, and we'll announce that once it's confirmed.
Okay, and if it turns out that people need badges before we're regularly ready with badges, then they can either contact Scott or me, and we'll have a badge for you. So Daniel, if you end up showing up at 6 a.m. on Monday with Yamil, then I'll make sure you have a badge.
Probably Wednesday.
Oh, well, okay. Wednesday we'll have a badge for you.
Yeah, currently we're looking at the bin room opening on Wednesday, and the bulk of the exhibits being put up on Thursday and Friday. I expect that there will be a few exhibitor self-carried or agent and representative carried exhibits that will be there Wednesday afternoon. I believe the bin room co-managers will be there beginning Wednesday as well. I and my assistant as the bin room commissioner will be there all day Wednesday on until we get everything up.
Okay, very good.
And it does take a while to put up all those frames too.
Yeah.
And I thought I saw you on there, Frederick. Good to see you. And maybe toss that idea around with your team about doing a Zoom for the exhibit volunteers once you get everything hammered out as to the process.
I have a question
That's a good idea.
I have a question about the literature. The jury, they're going to do it on Thursday and Friday. I saw an email of a plan. They're going to build those things for us. What that means, two issues. These are already agreed. They're going to build them and deliver them before Thursday.
Yes, but Actem, I'm sorry to interrupt. The judging of the literature will take place in the jury room, which is room 052A, while the literature area or room is being built. So you'll be judging elsewhere, not in the literature room.
Okay, so this room 52A, and the books will be moved from the museum. Who is anybody going to go and get them, or how this works?
Well, that's one of the things that I've taken responsibility for. I'm looking for volunteers to help me move the material that's been sent to the Spellman out to the stamp show.
I will be there on. I'm arriving on Tuesday, so this has to be done on a Wednesday at least.
Well, I'll be going on Sunday to the Spellman to load my car and bring some of the books, and others will follow. But we'll do it way in advance. Don't worry about that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll try not to hold you.
No, they think we have to number them also for the jury.
I'm not familiar with the move that you're referring to, but would it be beneficial to rent something and just move everything at once? It seems like a lot of back and forth trying to send people on different schedules. I don't know if there's a cost factor or some other factor there.
Yeah, well, no, the Spellman is renting a truck. John Everett is in charge. He couldn't be here, but we will be renting a truck.
Yeah, but even with that truck, we're still going to need to have the capacity to move stuff. So, I mean, the Spellman is going to be doing all they can, but we're gonna supplement it.
As a volunteer for the show, I haven't signed up for any shifts or anything yet. One of my questions is the schedule of seminars complete at this point? And is there an easier way to print that material or download it in a way that I don't have to scroll 100 times to try and zoom back and forth and say, oh, I want to do this. Oh, no, it conflicts with this. It's really hard to see it even on a computer screen. I don't know if there's a way to export that data into a downloadable PDF, or maybe there's a draft of the program that's available that could be a PDF online that people could see that in a more summarized way.
Yeah, the CVent should give us the capability to send messages out to registrants. If you say, I'm interested in whatever, cats on stamps, exhibitions or talks, they will send you a message, today at 2:00 there's a cats on stamp whatever talk, etc. So I don't see Mark Butterline on the call anymore, but we should be able to announce that, so you can select what you want and you can be notified of your interest.
Yeah, I think I was thinking more during the selection process. Like right now, for me to look at it, when I go to print that page or export that page from the website, it's like 30 pages of events. And I didn't know if there was a more compressed schedule format that is able to be viewed in before I start signing up for what webinars I want to, or what seminars I want to attend, or what schedules I want to volunteer for.
Well, let me look into that. So far, we have nearly 400 events. So that's, I don't know how to compress that. But
Megan, it's Mark. Try the
Yeah.
app.
Will
the app,
do.
because you can just you can scroll through it. You can select the ones you want. You can just tap it, and then that's on your schedule. The app is the easiest way, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Roger that.
Later.
Thanks.
All right. Sounds like we got a lot accomplished already. Nice job, David.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Like I said, you have 40 people on the call, and everybody is, dedicated to stamps and to the show. So that's wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate you putting this together.
No
David,
worries.
one question. There was some talk about having a pre-exhibit meeting. I know that David talked about it. I talked about it. Who's going to coordinate that? Is it going to be Frederick Lawrence, or is it going to be back with somebody else?
Are you
We
talking
will send
about?
instructions. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you talking about exhibit volunteers putting up exhibits?
Yes, ahead of
Okay.
time and stuff. And anything else that they needed to cover, because
Yes.
this is very general, and I'm sure there's specific procedures that they want to do at this show. Every show is a little different. So I want to know if there's going to be a pre-meeting for exhibitor, people that place the exhibits in the frames and then tear them down also.
Absolutely, Pat. There'll be specific instructions on where to show up to, who to report to, and you'll be assigned a particular task. You need to have a form like at any show, and this exhibit was mounted by so and so. Sign here.
Okay.
There'll be photos of the exhibit on the frames as to document that what was put on the frames, etc. But we will be issuing very specific instructions for that.
Okay.
Easy enough. Anything else on these topics? I don't want to end it while there's still good conversation.
So it's been very useful. Thank you.
Good deal. And it is. It's definitely good hopping on these and kind of being able to communicate openly. The one that we do have coming up that is on the schedule is on the 30th, and that will be a generic volunteer, again, kind of a plug to get them to self-schedule to make sure that, hey, we're 30 days out, et cetera, and really kind of encourage that last minute volunteer push. So any coordinators that want to do that. And as you were saying, maybe the bin room or those guys that want to get one put together and could utilize that on the 30th for some specific instructions on that for those volunteers. And it's going to be a good last minute push. That's the only one that's scheduled. The last thing I'd like to say on this one, I think most everybody here is way up to speed, but please do. Thank you, Megan, for looking to get yourself scheduled in the right slots. I appreciate that. Anything that gets scheduled early is better. Continue to promote to your friends and other folks that are volunteering to do that as well, because I'm going to kind of let it go until the first week in May before I start assigning slots, because there are people that aren't this connected. I think we had about 50%, 58% of the volunteers went through the training programs that we put up. Another 60 have gone on and watched it online. So I think that was a good number as well. And they're doing it, but I'm going to give them time to really fill those slots until the first week in May. Then it's kind of go time, and I'm going to start assigning positions from people that have said they're interested in certain things and they have certain time frames open. Then I'll start scheduling them. So pass the word on down the line that if you don't get yourself scheduled somewhat soon, we're going to put you in a slot. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, and I appreciate everybody on this call. It will be posted up probably later tonight or tomorrow for those that want to review or share it with somebody else that wasn't able to be on. So with that, I'm finished. David, wrap it up and take us home.
Yeah, well, I'm putting up my home email address, and if you saw some stuff that you're interested in doing, you want to contact me. I saw that Yamil and Chris Browdy have already offered to drive the Spelman and take stuff in and stuff. Very helpful. Feel free to contact me and let me know how you might be able to help. It doesn't necessarily mean a big commitment, but people who say, yeah, I'll help you in some way, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sounds good. Hey, do you mind if I put that email out on the generic notifications that I'll put out after this so that all
Oh,
volunteers will see it?
that'd be great, because for some reason, my david.ball at Boston 2026 doesn't always get to me. So
okay.
putting my email would be great.
Roger that. Consider it done.
Thank you.
All righty, boys. Over and out, everyone. Thanks for everything.
Good night.
All righty.